episode of the Pre-Praise Report. I am your host, Bre Hargrove-Seta. This morning we'll be sitting down with our member, Tanya Hayes, and we'll be discussing her experience with dealing with behavioral challenged children. But first, CCU, let's find out what's going on at your church. All right, CCU, at this time, I'd like to introduce to you guys Miss Tanya Hayes. Welcome to the Pre-Praise Report.
Thank you for having me again. I didn't think I would be back so soon.
I know. You are what, our second returning guest we had?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're so happy to have you back with us this morning. So today, let's get down to it. You know, we always like to start off finding out more about our guest. Can you tell our members how long you've been a member here at CCU?
I've been a member at CCU since 1992.
Okay.
91, 92-ish. Yeah.
Okay. And today we're talking about your experience in childcare. So let's get down to that aspect. How long have you been a teacher?
I was a teacher back when I was in my early 20s. I'm years old now. But yes.
She's still 25.
So
25.
I was a teacher back in my early 20s.
Okay.
Early 20s.
Do you remember what's the first school you taught at, or no?
Yes, I do.
What school was it?
I lived in Newark, New Jersey, and I worked for Newark Preschool Council. So I started out as a volunteer parent that would take over the assistant teacher's position when she was on vacation and things of that nature. Yeah. So it was back then.
And you were still teaching like the pre-K age when you were doing that?
Yes,
okay.
It was preschool children.
Have you taught any other age other than preschool, or just the young kids?
Basically the young kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No more than about 4.5 years old.
And what made you want to do that? Do you have anybody that inspired you to become a teacher, or is it just something that you've always been great with kids and what was your calling?
That's pretty much it, Bree. My mom had there was 5 of us, and I took care of my brother and my sisters, and so I was always around kids somehow or another. I have a love for kids, no matter what the age they are,
right?
And sometimes no matter how their behavior is, So
behavior. Let's talk about that, because that's why we're here this morning. We talked off screen, and you let me know that you self-taught yourself in ways to deal with children who have behavioral issues. What are some examples of, and signs of kids who have behavior issues and ways that you deal with them?
Okay. The misconception is we always want to. You hear people say all the time that child is bad and I can't do nothing with them. Well, there's always something that there's an underlying about it.
Okay.
First of all, first and foremost, we have to remember that we are big children, and we've gone through those same scenarios or some aspect of it. So we're not so. How would you say it?
Different.
We are not. Absolutely. You still find some adults who still have tantrums and things of that nature.
Right.
And we don't always want to be, patient with them. But we were there. And now it's their turn, and you've got to be able to adjust and find ways to be able to have peace of mind and to maybe turn that behavior pattern around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I have a child in my class who would say, because I at one point was a teacher I taught 2-year-olds, I taught 3-year-olds, I taught 4-year-olds. So I kind of understand dealing with that difficult child that you have in the class. So for example, if I had a child in my class who was constantly throwing things at other kids or being mean to other kids or just wasn't able to verbally express why they were angry, what are some things that I can do to kind of understand why they are behaving that way?
Good question. First of all, like you said, you got to find out what's behind that.
Okay.
Why are they throwing stuff? Why are they being mean to other kids? Is this what's happening at home?
Right.
Have they experienced this, and so now they're taking their frustration out on other kids?
Right.
The cliche is hurt people hurt other people.
Right.
And there's other factors to it. It's as we can see, you're expecting again, and so a lot of times kids who has had their mom and their dad's attention all this long, now they have to share it with somebody else.
Right.
Sharing it with someone that's older than them, that older one was already there. So now here I've got to share with you, but now here comes somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's going to take away my mommy time or my daddy time. They don't understand that the love is spreadable around, So you have to kind of get them to help you along.
Right. And I'm dealing with that now. We're dealing with that with Brandon Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like his behavior is changing because he notices that he's not going to be the baby anymore.
Absolutely.
So it's like in between, he's either going from being okay to being very angry within like 5 seconds, or he's trying to backtrack into being into that baby stage. So we're trying to figure out some ways to help him along. What are some advice that you have for parents who are going through something like that, who are trying to transition their baby into the middle child stage? Because that's basically what he's going to be.
Well, one thing that you really want to do is you want to give Brandon Jr. his time.
Mm-hmm.
Mommy time, daddy time. You want to implement just time alone with him, and then time with Jalen with him. But then you want to help him prepare for the new baby.
Okay.
So you want to take him to the store and say, whatever the baby's name is. What did you
Julian.
Name? Julian, that's right.
Julian.
So you want to take him to the store. Take Brandon. Come on, we're going to pick Julian out something. But then get a little something for him as well. Not something major, but something small, because it's just the little things mean a lot.
Okay.
And you pulling him along and saying, come on, letting him be inclusive in it can change. After a while, you'll see where he wants to do a lot of things, and then you gotta kind of watch that too.
Yes.
Because then he's gonna want to do everything.
Take advantage.
Changing diapers.
Right. Yeah, he think he gonna be the boss.
Right. So, but just kind of let him be a part of it.
Okay.
Let them both be a part of it.
Okay.
Because as you said, he's now transitioning from being the baby to the middle child. And sometimes we don't think, and we do give baby is going to get more attention.
Well, they need more attention. It's not always intentional,
right.
But yes, that does unconsciously happen. So that is my goal, to try to transition him smoothly into that position. But going into a classroom setting, what are some ways that you can incorporate this child? Getting off the topic of Brandon, like if you have a behavioral challenged child, what are some ways that you can incorporate them into a group activity so that they feel like they don't need to act out in aggressive ways to get attention? Because I know, there's that child who's thinking, okay, I'm going to get attention either way, even if it's negative or it's positive. What are some ways that you can help them not do that in a group activity?
In a group activity, I understand what you're saying. So basically what I did, because I used to work at the daycare as well, and I had that class that was the behavior challenged children, and the ages in there were different.
Okay.
So you have to kind of have a happy medium, Some children are bored. They did that. They don't want to learn the ABCs. They already know the ABCs. So in some aspect, you have to kind of give them a little bit something more that's challenging, but that's on the same spectrum of what everybody else is doing.
Right.
When it comes to a collaborative setting where everyone is doing the same thing, you just got to make it a lot more fun.
For that one child.
A lot. Well, everybody else for that matter as well, but
Okay.
they have to see that it's fun. And
Okay.
they have to also see that if I don't do it, I'm missing out.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So that's the goal, to
Mhm.
make sure they know that even though you've done this before, even though you know this, it's fun to, you know, participate in this activity, because there might be somebody that, you know, I feel like I've seen it myself, even in kids who are bored per se and who
Mhm.
act out, they might see another child who doesn't know that and go to help them. So that
Mhm.
takes their mind off of them being bored and
Right.
wanting to act out, and now they help their friends.
That's right. You
So-
you let them help out. Like I
Right.
said, the same way with being a new sibling
Right.
along. Yeah, come here. Can you help such and such do this and this, because they don't know yet, and you're a big kid,
Right.
and you know about
Right.
it. So you got to be reassuring to them.
So make
Yeah.
them, always make them, well, try to make them a helper.
Not always, because
Okay.
you got to be able to spread that around.
Okay.
You don't want them to become the teacher's pet.
Right.
And they feel like they don't have to do what everybody else is doing at all, because now I have a big position.
Okay.
But you want to let them do a little bit sometime, and then you have to be the student now.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the beginning of when you started teaching. You said you were self-taught. So did you have a specific child that made you want to teach yourself on learning how to deal with kids like this, or what was the reason why you went out and did the research to be able to handle a child in that manner?
The story to that is, I used to work for Newark Preschool Council up in North Jersey, and I came on as a family assistant, where I was supposed to work with the parents. So I had to do home visits and stuff like that, and encourage them and try to help them get jobs and that kind of thing. Something like social work
Okay.
without a degree. And on my downtime, I spent a lot of time in the classroom playing with the kids and doing things with the kids. So the teachers and the HR saw that as well. So when I left the position as a family assistant, they called me up and they asked me would I come to teach this one kid who had actually bit the teacher.
Oh, wow.
And did really good,
Got it good.
substantial damage.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, hey,
Don't bother you
let me
much.
just go. Let's
Right.
go to school. And so when I went there, she kept calling him to come over because she wanted to introduce us, and he wouldn't come over. And I told her, just leave him alone. And so I just started watching him, just observing, him. And then eventually, it didn't even take maybe about 20 minutes. He finally came over, and I was just sitting there, just acting like I didn't, wasn't paying him any attention. And he said to me, my name is, and I can't think of his name right now. He said, my name is such and so. What do you want now? And I said, oh, what?
Oh,
Okay.
man. So you-
But in that, I talked to him. And the first thing I said to him, and I love kids.
yeah,
you got
Gam. We all know you love
Gam.
Gam.
That's right, Gam. You got one time to bite me. And from that point on, it was, it was a little rocky in the beginning.
Right, of
But then
course.
the underlining of that, what happened was he lived with his aunt. And he wasn't being treated right
Right.
because of the color of his skin, but no doubt. And that was his own aunt.
Wow.
But because he was light-skinned, they treated him differently. And so when it was all said and done, he was able to mainstream. And from that point on, I was like, oh, I got something going on here.
Right.
So, of course, I looked at other aspects of it. I researched things and watched other children in general. And then when I came to CCU as a teacher
We
here
had to
at
dig-
CCU,
right.
I started out with 2 kids, which grew into 14 kids in the classroom.
Wow, that's a big
But it
jump.
was fun. Bree, it was so rewarding, and it was so much fun being able to teach them stuff that they wasn't normally, in the other classrooms learning. We had little greenhouses that I bought from Target, so they learned about science. I gave them different types of foods to taste, and we
Wow.
talked about it. You got to make it
You
interesting.
gotta make it fun.
Yes.
Like you mentioned before.
Fun. There's a lot of fun in learning.
It is. And on top of that, now that you are Gam,
Yes.
You have all that other information, being a mom and a grandmom. So on top of that, it's like you're well-rounded and being able to tell us some things, and you know, when we're dealing with kids that we feel are difficult.
Yeah.
All right, CCU, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Pre-Praise Report. We had so much fun sitting down with Tanya Hayes. She gave us so much important information on how to deal with behavior challenged children. She also gave us a little insight on how to handle our baby Brandon and transferring him into, moving him to being the middle child. It's going to be so much work, but we're so happy that she gave us some good advice. All right, CCU, at this time, if you're tuning in on Facebook or YouTube, stay tuned. Live service starts at 9 a.m. Bye, y'all.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Come on, clap your hands. Give God a praise.